Thank you for watching. My name is Chani Kinsler, also known as CK the Poet on the Xbox One, and this is my Let's Run It series, where I talk about video games that are fun, great games that have good art style, story, strategy, involve you into the game, and all that good stuff. But most of all, the game has an educational element to it, and enjoyable for adults and children. So today we're going to talk about Valiant Hearts, The Great War. This will be the first game that I'm going to talk about that is not developed by a AAA developer. Actually, correction, it is made by a AAA developer. All the other games I ever talked about before were done by independent developers. So Ubisoft is the publisher, and one of the studios that they purchased was Ubisoft Montpellier. They used to be known as Luddy Media SAS back in the day. And if you're not familiar with Luddy Media, they're the ones that made Beyond Good and Evil. They also made Rayman. Very popular games. So, Valiant Hearts. As you can see here, I'm going to show off the options. I can turn the subtitles on and off. Then they have veteran mode. So you can turn the hints off and whatnot, the interactive objects within the game, if you want a little bit of a challenge. And you can also look at the credits. And then you have Uplay. I'm not going to click on that because that's going to send me to Ubisoft's kind of other software client that they have, where you can have other challenges, achievements, collectibles, and whatnot for your in-game items and whatnot for all of their games. And then from here you can see the chapters. It's 4 chapters. This is an episodic adventure type of game. It's a single player game. But it also has a bit of a puzzle aspect to it. And as you can see to the right, I have the items that I can collect. And it goes over the span of World War I. I can do a new game or I can hit continue. But I'm going to just select from the very beginning just so I can show you some gameplay of this game. But first we're going to look at the collections as well for each chapter. So, when I click on chapter 1, it shows that I can hit X for the chapter diaries, and there are multiple diaries that you get. Multiple diaries. Not going to read them, but there's more than one. As you can see, this is 1 of 4, 2 of 4, 3 of 4, and 4 of 4. And then you have the collectibles for this particular stage. And the thing that I like about this game, and this is where that educational element comes into, Ubisoft, they partnered up with Apocalypse, World War I. It was a documentary that came out some years ago that basically did a lot of good mini-series documentaries about World War I, and they had it on the National Geographic Channel. So they partnered with them and got a lot of photos and information from them to use in this game. This game has a very different approach when it comes to having an educational element. You're learning about World War I. You're collecting items from World War I. And as you can see here, the helmet, and different items. As you can see, I didn't get all the items. Maybe I'll find them in my playthrough. I found this earlier when I was replaying the game to kind of get a feel for how the game was. And it tells you what that item is, and what people used back in 1914. And each area for each chapter has some type of collectible. And they also have, I think the diaries go for all 4, but the collectibles are for each stage. And each stage is pretty much something that happened in World War I. So the game stays pretty historically accurate so far as the locations and a lot of the battles that took place in those locations. But the actual characters that they're using for their story definitely is fictional. And as for the characters, you have the main character, or the first character that you're introduced to, which is Emile. He's a French guy that gets drafted into the French army. And then another character that you're exposed to is Freddy, who is an African American who was living in France and married a French woman. And then when she married that French woman, you know, he ended up experiencing some loss there. And that what drove him to join the French army. And then you have Carl, who is a German who married Emil's daughter and ended up being deported back to Germany and was also drafted into the German army. And then for the last character that you're exposed to, you have Anna, who is a Belgian woman who's looking for her father who was kidnapped by the Germans. So with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and show off some gameplay. So I'm gonna start off with chapter 1 and also talk a little bit about the company in the game as well. So let's go back. We're gonna start with chapter 1. And we'll start with Concern.
He had no idea what fate had in store for him.
This game right here does a really good job of narrating. The artwork in this game is probably one of the best I've ever seen. And just if you're curious as well, that the developer that made this game, Ubisoft Montpellier, they made the engine for this game and a lot of other games that are used by Ubisoft. The engine, I believe, is called UbiArt Framework, my mistake, UbiArt Framework. And the art style is just, it looks like it's 2D, but it's also 3D. So it's like basically 2D.5 kind of thing. Like 2.5D, basically. And they give you little hints on what you're supposed to do. So I go over here, talk to this dude. Hey, play the horn. The game starts off kind of slow at first, but it has a very deep story. This is one of those games that is going to invoke so much emotion in you because World War I was probably one of the bloodiest wars of the history. And it's going to go into pretty decent detail with their partnership with Apocalypse from National Geographic. They're going to have certain areas where you're going to encounter some historical facts and also historical items. And this would be a good game to play for someone that wants to learn about World War I while also playing the game. Or for an adult that's just a history buff, but also wants an interactive game. Like I said before, this is a single player game, it's a puzzle game, it's an adventure game as well. But it also has this very interactive story where you have things that you interact with and items that you interact with. You know, you'll see a lot of the collectibles on the ground. A lot of them I've already picked up, as you can see. So I'm just kind of going with the motions of the game just so you can see what it looks like.
My dear Marie, we are on our way to Paris. The atmosphere here is strangely cheerful. I hope that the harvest goes well.
But definitely, this would be a really cool game to get for someone as a gift. Or, you know, as for yourself if you just want something to play. If I'm not mistaken, Valiant Hearts, The Great War, it was released back in June of 2014. And it came on the Xbox One, it came on the Xbox 360, it came out on the PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, Microsoft Windows, also on Steam. And then later on that year they released it to Android and iOS. And they came out with another version of this game called Valiant Hearts, Dog's War. There's a lot of things that you're going to encounter in this game that's going to be a little bit different from some of the other games. You're going to experience friendship, you're going to experience sadness, you're going to experience so many different emotions, tragedy, love. And when you start playing this game, you're not going to want to stop. Oh, I need that. Thank you. Let me through. This is one of those games that you're going to get so into the story that you will forget all time. You're going to get to playing the game, and then hours are going to go by, and then once you beat the game, you're going to be like, that's it? Oh man, I would love to play more. You're going to be like, oh, I want to play more. Like, where's the sequel? Oh, and I forget, there's one more character in the game too as well. He's kind of more of a side character, but he's definitely in the game. And that is Walt, the Doberman Pinscher. He's a dog that's going to help you out a lot on your quest. Get out of here, y'all.
August 21st, 1914.
Don't be beating up on this guy.
Emil's regiment was sent to fight
Picking
against
on
the
him.
71st German Division, led by Baron von Dorf. The general cheer of the first hours dissipated into the fear of first combat.
And they have a little conversation here. Another thing that I want to talk about with this game is that the soundtrack. The soundtrack on this game is really good as well. They did an awesome job with the soundtrack on this game. Like, it's one of those things that pairs up very well with the ambiance that they're trying to portray in the game. And I know you're not really seeing the educational element when you're playing the game because I've already picked up a lot of the collectibles, but there are definitely multiple collectibles that you'll run into and different historical pieces that you'll pick up and run into as you'll go through the game. And you can read them and you'll learn a good deal. Like, even the protagonist is an actual real person from World War I. Uh-oh. Watch out. Uh-oh. Watch out. Charge! But definitely, if you're not familiar with the series that I've been doing, this is my Let's Run It series, where I talk about games that have educational element, and Valiant Hearts is definitely the next game that I decided to pick because of the history that you learn in the game. I felt like that had a very significant educational element, learning about a time in history that a lot of people don't really know a whole lot about.
Miss Marie Chillon.
And it's good to play games like this where didn't make it, where you learn something new.
Was wounded by enemy fire on August 21st.
And I think that more games like this one should definitely be developed and worked on.
From him soon. Freddy, originally from America,
Another sad
enlisted
moment.
voluntarily in the French forces at the start of the war. Behind his bravery hid a man already devastated by the war's effects. A man.
And if you haven't noticed by now, the graphics in this game, it kind of has like a cartoony kind of feel to it. Definitely hand-drawn graphics here.
It was at the Battle of the Marne that Freddy finally picked up the trail of the regiment commanded by Baron von Dorf.
And it talks about each character a little bit, as you can see here. It goes into their history and it kind of explains to you, what drove them to either volunteer or why they were forced to be in the war. And as you can see here, now it shows off Freddy's portion. And I'm going to show off a little bit of his actions here in the game. And then I'll go ahead and end the video there. I mean, the only negative thing that I will say about this game is when it was released, it was $15. I believe that I purchased it at launch, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember when I purchased it, but I played this game some years ago. And I don't know, the price now is probably a whole lot cheaper. If you can get it on sale, I would get it on sale. But this would definitely be a good game to buy for a young one or for a friend. You know, as just a really good game with good artwork, good soundtrack. You know, something that has such a good story. Like, even though it doesn't, the characters themselves don't necessarily talk during the game. Uh-oh, that's not good. The characters themselves don't necessarily talk. But they do some, there are some narration within the game to a degree. See if I can get him. No, I guess I ain't gonna be able to get him. Uh-oh. But the puzzles, you know, I mean, they're not too difficult. I mean, some of them you'll kind of mess up on because they don't seem, they don't seem so, easy at first. But, man, this guy doesn't want to go over there. See if I can throw this right there. Take that. Take that. But let's see here. Like, most of these puzzles are pretty simplistic. But if you never heard of this game before, I would definitely take a look at it. I would definitely give it a try. Like, if you yourself are into history, you know, learning about, you know, different times in history, this will definitely be a game that you'll enjoy. And you can add to your collection. I just threw that just to throw that. I really don't need it. I just grabbed it just because. Thank you. Alrighty. Don't need that. Grab this ladder. But if you haven't checked out my other videos, definitely. Uh-oh. I don't think it's safe to go over there. Urgh, don't get hit. If you haven't checked out my other videos, definitely check out my other Let's Run It videos. The games that I've done thus far are, the first one I did was Spellspire. The second one that I did was Letter Quest. And then the third one, which was Typo Man, that one has a really interesting story, just like this one does, and a good soundtrack as well. Let's grab another one of those, might need it. And then there's this game, you know, Valiant Hearts. But I don't want to show too much of the game. But the game is pretty lengthy, though. You could probably beat this game in about 10 hours. But it's one of those games that you'll definitely enjoy. Alrighty. But this video has been pretty long enough. I just wanted to show you off some of the gameplay. I'm gonna end it right here. This is my Let's Run It series, where I talk about, you know, video games that have an educational element, that are fun and entertaining, but enjoyable for everyone. If you are interested, check out the other videos, and you can check out my other videos as well that aren't part of my Let's Run It series too, if you would like. And I also have a blog that accompanies with each video. So if If you want to check the blog out, it's on chanikinsler.wordpress.com. It'll definitely be in the description below. But thanks for watching. Peace.